So years ago when I was coming up with, and I shouldn't say I was coming up with, I was recognizing, I'm showing the methodology of how I recognize these principles in play and how the order, the number, and the unfoldment of the pure principles themselves were a recognition of the antithetical, the juxtaposed. That is what I call the anti-principles, and how they were not only just being used against me systematically. When I say systematically, I'm talking about a definite order that the system's logic has to follow. So then the ultimate question was, why would these principles be a danger? Or more so, why would the antithetical, the opposite anti-principle be in play to stalemate, sabotage, and arbitrarily remove the actual pure principle from being in play at all, anywhere, ever? Because when you look around, when you look at the schoolyards, when you look at our educational systems, when you look through systems logic at global events, the body politic, how these countries organize in a mass, how larger bodies, larger countries come in as these super or hyper parasitic organisms, and the first thing that they make sure to install is this volatile entropy of an anti-principle based market system that in it, through the cipher code mechanism has pi and phi or phi based Fibonacci undulations. I mean, this is a big, huge tool at the central hub of watching market flux and market manipulations, if you will. Or how big companies affect through the supply chain other companies. And so you can use the same exact cycle patterns to not only look at the, all the way down to the polarization, depolarization, repolarization of our hearts and the rhythm that you see there, but you can go on and see the same signature repeating over and over and over again. And at the hub, with anti-principles, of course, it seems very simplistic and even arbitrary and mundane into itself. But you see that impurity has to be in play. The stories that the good grandmother tells the granddaughter so that she can survive is the very thing that kills her off and turns her into a cybernetic organism that later, counting all her wealth and how she got it, she's looking back going, wow, that was the day that I lost myself. And then the grandmother told her that, in a very generic conversation, saying, do you want to look back and, to the little girl, do you want to live on the street and have to sell yourself like your mother or your aunt or this person over here, or, being a little bit more G-rated and saying, do you want to end up being homeless? Do you want to be poor? Or do you want to have everything? And to lose yourself, to lose the soul, is to lose the recognition and then the amplification, the amplitude that comes from pure principle. Now, the problem is that there is no extension of this that is outright existing today because self-reliance, even transcendentalism fell to this. But when you look at the reason that it didn't catch fire and really become something that could be used through major influence, it really remained more in academic circles. In other words, you really had to look at Emerson and Thoreau and others and see how the transcendentalism was being used through systems, right? Through systems, and then see that, oh, this didn't work. Well, the whole idea that if you see somebody begging, smiling for their daily bread, right, Emerson, then they are sinning or signing against themselves. They have betrayed themselves because they have not recognized through the ontology that perhaps you need to go through this suffering. So there was a heavy reliance on the fact that there was some sort of, see, in that you find moral objection, in that you find dogma, because then when you expound on this, you have to 100% believe in, and this may seem like a jump into a theosophic argument, that there is some sort of master moral objector that sits at the helm, that sits at the seat, and is doing everything for not only, like going back to Machiavelli, virtue, or look at virtue signaling, but and cancel culture, but is in fact proclaiming that the ontology would choose some sort of principle orientation. The issue here is that once a principle, a byproduct of the master principle is chosen, this would generate or create a firing pattern where you would see rampant, that principle itself would be recognized. And this may be why certain civilizations have been completely blotched out, where you get into this left-hand path and right-hand path type of thinking when you're looking at the historicity and the application, where principalities would be taking, they're playing this sort of, again, like this chess game where you have the blacks and the whites, right? You have a certain agreed upon playership that has to occur on the chessboard, and that these pieces have to move in a specific to themselves, a specific movement pattern. And in fact, it's completely abolishing the fact that the pure principles would breed and give life, right? And that even still today with the anti-principles that are being adhered to is that they steal and stave and siphon off from the pure source energy. And all you have to do is look at the trafficking with people who maintain a higher level of purity, the so-called common people or the children, right? These are the people that are being trafficked at a much greater extent. And it's being looked at, but it's being looked at through the arbitrary mechanics, through the mechanism of capitalism of, okay, write a book on it, make money, make a movie about it, make money, nothing will get done.